So at the end of the War of 1812, there were several important effects that occurred throughout the nation that greatly enhanced nationalism or pride in the nation. So one of the first things we have here is increased patriotism. Patriotism is having a very strong pride in your nation. It's kind of similar to nationalism, where Americans start feeling like Americans and not just New Yorkers or Virginians or Kentuckians for that matter. So this is also going to increase the power of the federal government because people will be okay with giving the federal government more power over some states, particularly in the North. Now, weakening Native Americans was clearly very detrimental and horrible for Native American culture and way of life. It led to the destruction of millions of lives, lost land, property, a lot of stuff. But for American government, this reduces the resistance by Native Americans and allows the American government to help citizens expand westward. Now, the economy is going to improve greatly over this time. Again, particularly in the North, and we'll kind of see a little bit later why the North. So one of the first major things was improved technology that allows transportation to help improve that economy. And this is really where our focus is. We're going to see more jobs as a result of this, and we're going to see higher wages. And because the U.S. economy starts going up so well, we will eventually see lots of immigration. And the last thing is a decrease in the cost of services, so things will become cheaper. Overall, these things together combine to see an improved economy for America. So the way that the economy is going to be improved was brought about in Congress in a system called the American System, which had three parts. So let's first look at the first one, the Second National Bank. Now we have a reference for the National Bank because the first one came about with Alexander Hamilton and his financial plan to help the United States get out of debt and improve its economic situation. So that charter was reinstated near the end of the War of 1812 so that the North could still face a good economic situation, eliminate most of its debt, park its money, so lots of savings in these banks, as well as loaning to the government and to big businesses the opportunity to improve that. Now, the protective tariff, it increases the price of foreign goods, which makes American goods cheaper. So Northerners particularly like this. Southerners did not because they had to pay higher prices for goods. Now, this will eventually lead us to the transportation revolution. So as the economy improves after the War of 1812, new transportation options will also come about that will improve the American economy. We're going to see canals and steamboats. We're going to see roads, even though cars aren't invented yet, we still have horse and carriage. And then finally, and probably the biggest impact of these, will be trains and railways. So let's take a closer look at some of the three major transportation improvements in the early 1800s. So first we have the Cumberland, or the National Road, that connects Maryland all the way to the end of Illinois. Again, this is considered part of the North, and that's where a lot of this construction is going to take place, as local states and businessmen will openly take government money and government land for very low rates, or if not for free. So this road connects the east and the west and is over 591 miles long. Now, as we see, New York was one of the major trading ports in the country, and probably the largest trading port up north at this time. So by allowing the Hudson River to be connected by man-made canals, this will decrease the cost of trade. It will decrease the cost of transportation for even passengers. And we'll see places like upstate New York and other parts over like in Chicago booming in economic activity at this time. So we're going to see increased population in these areas and lower cost of doing business. And finally, and most importantly, we have this dividing line showing the north and the south. Most of this railway is up north. Again, very similar to the roads and the canals, that's where we're going to see manufacturers taking advantage of government assistance. We're going to see these regions greatly benefit. And a bit of a preview, we're going to see how the states' rights are going to come into play as the South kind of refuses some of these loans. Some of them don't want to get involved, and it's going to hurt them, especially when they try to fight during the Civil War. This railway up north is going to greatly assist the North in preserving the Union. So as we go on to one of our last slides, we see different charts and graphs comparing before the Transportation Revolution and after. And one of the things that we're going to notice is, in addition to increased population in different regions in the North and the West, we will see a significant impact on economic activity. As we look over here, we can see from 1800 to 1850, there's a sharp decrease in the cost of transporting. Okay? So this decrease in cost means an increase in economic activity. So when the price of goods go down, more people will buy it, and when more people buy goods from a company, then we'll have more jobs and higher wages. Now if we take a look at a case study of Ohio, at the time period we're looking at, we see some interesting stuff. So first we see this little red line, which is called expenditures. That's how much that you spend. You always want to keep that low. Then you see revenue. That's how much money you make. So when people or governments or businesses are looking at information, you want revenue, which is in green, to be higher than what's in red, the expenditures. And what do we notice? Right around the time period we're talking about, the state of Ohio has much, much better revenue than it does expenditures. So it's making money, it's not spending money. So the Transportation Revolution has a very good impact on the economy of Ohio, as well as the other states. So again, we have a decreased cost of goods, which means things are cheaper, services are cheaper, it's easier for people to move and start new economic ventures. We're also going to see an increase in the number of jobs that are available since people are buying more goods. And we'll see an increase in wages, how much people are getting paid for those jobs. And together, we're seeing an increase in nationalism, pride in the country, and the power of that federal government. So to summarize, let's take a look at our transportation revolution and briefly review the causes and some of the major impacts of it. Alright, as we zoom in, one of the first things that we're going to get down on our notes is the War of 1812. When England was blockading the shores of Europe and the US, we were forced to improve our internal transportation and economic activity. At the same time, we do see improvements in technology, right? We're going to see the ability to extract coal and iron from the ground as a net positive to businesses. Because of this, we have more power, right? Coal is going to power ships, steamboats. It's going to power trains eventually, and then iron is going to build some of those machines, eventually buildings and urban centers, as well as trains to improve economic activity. As well, we see profit motive, right? People want to improve their opportunities with this new technology. So people take out loans, work with each other to improve that economic situation. And then finally, as we move to effects, we see that we have an increase in migration. So Americans are going to be moving from the north and the south westward, particularly those northerners are going to move westward. And immigrants will come into the country as well, which we'll look at soon. As this migration moves westward, we do see an increased conflict with Native Americans. As we said earlier, there will be a lot of death and violence for natives. And in addition, we're going to see an increased conflict over the issue of slavery. As Southerners, some will try to bring slaves out west. And we have to look at that balance of free states and slave states when thinking about creating federal law. All right, so those are some of the social effects. Now for some economic effects, as we said before, we're going to see again more jobs. We're hammering that home. Also, we're going to see increase in wages.